So this is your intro to recording guitar in Ableton. First things first, you need a guitar, of course, and a lead. And then you need an interface to plug that into the guitar. Now the interface that I use is a Focusrite Scarlett. Okay, and it looks just like this. Okay, other models are available, other brands are available, but you need something like this. Mine is I think it's the 6i6, and yeah, you plug your guitar in to one of the inputs on here. There's other available brands like the Apollo. No, not this guy, but this guy. So make sure you have an interface that's connected to the computer, installed correctly with all the relevant drivers, and now we're ready to go into the Ableton program itself, and we will go into the options settings, and if you're using Windows, you set your driver type to ASIO. If you're not using Windows, then you will be using the, I believe it's called Core Audio. From audio device, you select your Focusrite or your Apollo or whatever it is, then you go to hardware setup and you ensure the buffer size is low. 64 is perfect, 128 will do. Anything higher than that and you will experience too much latency, which means that when you play the guitar there will be a delay before you hear that guitar coming back to you through the monitors. That's the process we call monitoring, so you will have latency when monitoring. Once you've set that up, you come over here and you look at the latency, and it will tell you that there is still a 4 millisecond latency, input and output. Combine whatever these two numbers are together and then give them a negative value, negative 8.16, giving you an overall latency of 0.00 milliseconds. Go back into options and you want to click on reduced latency when monitoring. Now go to a fresh available audio track, and if you click this little eye in the corner here, it will tell you what all of the buttons and knobs do. So this right here is our input channel. Mine is currently plugged into input number 2. This button here is for monitoring. The monitoring is set to automatic. If I click off, there will be no sound coming through the speakers, but it will still record if I have armed the recording. This is the arm recording button. So you set your input, you arm the track, and then you set the monitoring to auto so that you can hear your guitar coming through the speakers. If it's set to off, it will still record. Watch this. Recording. It did record, but I couldn't monitor it, whereas if I set to auto and record, you can also hear it being monitored. So we have a track, we have the correct input, we're getting a sound. If there is a delay between what is coming out the speakers and what you're playing, you have to go back into options and settings and have a look here and make sure that your latency reading here is to your taste. Now, click on the left hand panel here. You can always get rid of this box, by the way, and you can bring it back whenever you need to. We're going to select amp, self-explanatory. I'm going to set it to clean, and cabinet. You see, an amp must have a speaker. This is a speaker cabinet emulation plugin. Different speakers are available. One 12-inch speaker, two 12-inch speakers, a 4 10-inch speakers. There's one for bass guitar. Let's just leave it. Microphones. Is the microphone near the speaker and close to the axis, or is it off axis, or is it far away? If you don't care or you don't know what that means, don't worry about it, but these will give you other tonal options and variations. You can also use a condenser microphone, again an emulation of a condenser microphone, or a dynamic microphone. I would suggest condenser. You can play around to your taste. Now over here we have gain, and we have our bass, middle, treble and presence controls. You're not sure what any of them do, you click here. and you just hover your mouse. Presence is like the kind of high frequencies. It's a different effect than treble to your experimentation. So right now I will play, and I'm just going to lower the presence and treble a little bit. And it sounds okay, but it sounds a little dry. So tenet number one of playing electric guitar is reverb in all things. This little thing over here with the infinity sign controls this channel reverb. Just click on it, push up, there you go, all the way up. Maybe a little bit much, bring it down. Boost channel. Blues. Again, you can always add more gain. Rock. Not a bad sound. Lead. You may need to set the levels a little on some of this heavy. Yeah, crazy levels. Just take this down a little bit. This is the volume from the track up here. Get a lot of sustain with that, and this last setting is for bass. Okay, what else can we do? Let's go back to blues. We can go over into this effects and we can add things like chorus, right? Right amount. Just go a little bit crazy. Dry wet. Wet is just the affected signal. Sounds a bit funky. Dry. No chorus. Blend to taste. Verses. And by the way, you can just click that little button to get the effect turned on or off. There's lots of different things in here. Just experiment. You can always open a folder and just take a preset. Echo, climbing flange. Let's see what happens. Really cool effects, right? Diffused long cascades. Ethereal canyon. Wow, that's really cool. Textures. Soundscapes. You don't have to do a big strumming pattern. See, these things have internal rhythms of their own. So effects allow you to have rhythm in your playing without actually playing rhythm, right? You can just play nice chords. Compressor can be an interesting one. If you're not sure what compression is, don't worry about it. Look at this, control dynamics. Let's just drop that in front of the amp. Remove this threshold until when I play this little thing moves. This has an effect of just tightening everything up a little bit. So this has not been an exhaustive expose of what you can do in Ableton, but it's an encouragement to muck around in this little audio effects, use an amp, use a cabinet, other plugins are available, but this is all you need. Now to the meat of this little tutorial is, and this is aimed primarily at those who would really like a visual aid when working on the rhythm guitar player, but actually this is a useful exercise for anybody. It's basically the litmus test of how in time you actually are. Now if I click this little button here, this turns on the metronome, and I can set this to any tempo I like. Simply click and drag, or you can type, let's say 80 BPM, enter. Now when I click play, something weird happened there. This will set the tempo, right? Okay, there's 80 BPM. Now, simple exercise, I would encourage you to try it. Maybe you do this exercise and think, wow, that wasn't so difficult, but maybe you don't. So what we're going to do is we're going to play one chord and we're going to let it ring for 4 beats, and that's it. I'll use a C. Stop, and I will look and I will see how well my strums line up with the beat. That's the beat. Right, now look at that. I'm a little bit early. Would you believe it? And there was me thinking I was perfect, right? And over here, better. Over here, better again. Looks like I was starting to actually pay attention there, right? So I'm going to try again. I want to play right on that line. Is it because I want to play like a robot? No. But it's going to help me to be more tuned into the click, not just as something in the background, but as a very definite location and time that I want to line up with as perfectly as is possible for a human being. Here we go again. Right on the beat. Zoom is achieved by, if you just let your mouse come down, you'll see that it turns into a magnifying glass. Click, pull down to zoom, push up to zoom out. Okay, let's have a look now. Is there any improvement? Yes. Wow. Much improvement. Improvement mucho. And okay, next step. You want to now see if you can record a chord change, right? And try and get that without the gaps. 2, 3, 4. I've done this often enough to know that it's probably not perfect. Now we're dealing with milliseconds, like that's good. Don't feel bad if you're coming in a little bit early. That's like the sound of the pick before you actually play the chord. This is good feedback. Wow, come in quite early there. D minor, G, C. So we get to check visually how in time we are. Maybe we could do a strumming pattern now. I'm just listening. I'm not watching the screen. I'm just listening. That there's like what we call the transient, which is the kind of loudest attack of each chord change, and then there's the bit in between. How am I doing? Bit early there, bit early here, bit early here, and here. Again, we're dealing with milliseconds. This is good, there's nothing wrong with this. I'm in time. It's not like I'm gradually moving further and further away as we go along, but there's still room for improvement. Again, we don't need to play like robots, but if we can think in terms of nailing the grid here, get right on the beat, it can only be a good thing. It brings a larger degree of awareness and the hearing to the click, to the playing along with it, which also has a trickle effect into the playing with other human beings. And of course, even the best drummer in the world, they move a little, they speed up, they slow down, that's okay. Part of your musicianship then is to be in sync with that, but when it's time to record in this kind of environment, then the click and the grid are your two best friends. And don't be disheartened if you're all over the place at worst, because now using this and taking small chunks like one bar of C, can I play even on each beat? Strum, 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 strum. Am I lining up? If not, keep chipping away at it, you will notice that it improves, and when it does improve, you will have a visual read on that. You'll have evidence. This is the sort of biofeedback machine of rhythm guitar playing. Again, close enough for rock and roll. It's pretty good, pretty good. That's probably the pick, then the chord, you know, there's like a little bit of something something. I'm going to do one more after this, and hopefully I can nail it. I want a little bit more reverb and all things. Let me try a different speaker too. How does this sound? A little bit fatter, let's try far away. What does it sound like with the dynamic? It's different, right? It's a different vibe. Okay. One more, right on the click, 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 click. And if you're in the habit of playing a little bit ahead of the beat, even milliseconds, then getting it right on the beat, you might feel like you've waited too long. I felt that a little bit there at the end, but because of my read that I'm getting from the program, you know, the images don't lie, I started to adjust even though it felt a little bit wrong. Look, and now I'm making differences of milliseconds. You can see that I'm getting closer. Look at that. I'm closer to, this time I'm a little bit late. Alright, I'm getting closer to my ideal for my exercise. I'm a little bit late there. Tiny bit early. Right on. Right on. A little bit late. And by the way, late is better than early. It feels cool, you're not in a hurry. So that's my introduction to getting set up in Ableton and also to recording yourself, and first off using this as a tool to really see where your rhythm playing is at. And as a standalone tool for that, it's maybe a little bit overly functional because it does so much. But good news is, when you feel confident that you're recording yourself and you're playing in time, then we can start to move into recording in a more general sense, because now adding other instruments, you won't have guitar parts that are speeding up and slowing down. If this is your main instrument, then it's assumed that the other things that you will be recording are to support this. And if your guitar playing is all over the place rhythmically, then it's going to be very difficult to lay down a programmed drum track, or to play along with a drum loop, or to record some bass. Everything needs to play in time. And so hopefully this has been an enlightening introduction.